It's a turning point week for Ukraine, and the pressure is building fast. Trump issues a direct warning to Putin and doubles down on military aid. Germany joins in, calling on Nato to ramp up Patriot deliveries and pledges to lead. Meanwhile, Latvia delivers its first armored vehicles to the front lines, with more en route. And in Brussels, the EU hits pause on the 18th sanctions package, but the message is clear: Moscow won't be sprayed. This is Ukraine Today. I'm Zoroslava Kolesnikova, bringing you the headlines that matters. Stay with us. The pressure is rising on the battlefield and the negotiation table. US weapons remain a game changer in Ukraine's defense, while Washington's sanctions hit harder every day. And now President Donald Trump has doubled down: more arms for Ukraine and a bold ultimatum for Putin. What did he say and how will Moscow respond? Let's break it down.
From negotiations to real pressure on the aggressor country, during a meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte on the 14th of July, US President Donald Trump announced large-scale and rapid deliveries of military aid to Ukraine through NATO, as well as the possible introduction of secondary sanctions against Russia.
We make the best
We produce the best equipment, the best missiles. European countries know this better than anyone. And today we signed an agreement under which we will supply them with weapons, and NATO will pay for them. Some of the Patriot systems will arrive very soon, fantastically, within a few days. Several countries that have them are going to exchange them. And we will replace the Patriots they have with our own. And we will work on an agreement under which 17 Patriots, or a significant portion of them, will be sent to the battlefield. And this can be done very quickly.
The US president also stated that he's disappointed in Putin. According to him, phone conversations with the Kremlin dictator are currently useless. It is worth noting that in recent weeks, Russia has intensified its drone and missile attacks on Ukrainian cities, resulting in a large number of civilian casualties. In this regard, Donald Trump issued an ultimatum to Moscow with clear deadlines and possible consequences for refusing to end the war against Ukraine.
I am disappointed in Putin because I thought we would reach an agreement 2 months ago, but it seems that didn't happen. Therefore, based on this, we will impose secondary tariffs if we do not reach an agreement within 50 days. It's very simple, and they will be at the level of 100%.
The world shuddered, awaiting the consequences, and Russia didn't care, commented Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, on the statement by the US president. He claimed it seemed to him that Trump had issued a theatrical ultimatum to the Kremlin. Meanwhile, analysts note that the Kremlin will soon have no time for making sarcastic remarks, as the sanctions pressure could seriously impact, among other things, Putin's military ambitions. For example, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte advised Russia and its trading partners to think seriously. Secondary sanctions may be applied to all accomplices of the Kremlin regime.
This is significant. So today, if you are...
This is important. Therefore, today, if you're in Beijing, Delhi or Brazil and you know this is coming, you might want to call Putin and say, "Hey friend, we're still buying goods from you, but you need to take negotiations for a ceasefire or peace agreement seriously, otherwise we'll be subject to secondary sanctions." This, of course, is an economic impact on Russia itself.
The European Union believes that Trump's threats to Putin are not strong enough. According to the head of EU diplomacy, Kaja Kallas, it would be better to set a shorter deadline for the start of peace negotiations. On the one hand, it is very positive that President Trump is taking a firm stance toward Russia. On the other hand, 50 days is a very long time if we see that Russia is killing innocent civilians. Kaja Kallas, the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, is quoted by The Telegraph. Lithuanian Foreign Minister Kęstutis Budrys, in turn, stated that the possibility of the United States imposing secondary sanctions against Russia's major trading partners is a signal to a number of European Union countries that remain dependent on such trade. Among them are Hungary and Slovakia.
This is also a signal for Europe. We should prepare ourselves, as there are still some member states importing oil and petroleum products from Russia. Therefore, we need to speed up the Repower EU initiative and stop these imports before the issue of US secondary sanctions against Europe arises. Kęstutis Budrys, Lithuanian foreign minister, before the EU Foreign Affairs Council meeting.
A shift in Trump's rhetoric towards Moscow could deprive Putin of the ability to sit on two chairs. He will have to choose, either hit economic rock bottom or make concessions. analysts at the American Institute for the Study of War believe. Trump stated that the Russian economy is in very poor condition and that Russia is using its resources for war, not for trade. The Institute for the Study of War continues to believe that Russia's combat losses are a key factor in the country's economic problems, as Russia suffers from the consequences of increased and unsustainable military spending, rising inflation, a significant labor shortage, and the depletion of the Russian sovereign wealth fund. Increasing pressure on Russian forces on the battlefield will jeopardize Putin's attempts to balance market regulation efforts and may force him to face difficult choices sooner than he would like, the Institute for the Study of War report says. Increasing military aid to Ukraine and active sanctions pressure on Moscow could make it impossible for Russia to continue the war at its current pace, which means Putin will have to come to the negotiating table. Analysts at the American Institute for the Study of War conclude. Yulia Granovskaya for Freedom Television Channel.
A major call to action from Germany. Defense Minister Boris Pistorius urges NATO allies to step up and buy more Patriots and other critical weapons for Ukraine. Chancellor Friedrich Merz called President Donald Trump's arms package a vital initiative and says Germany is ready to take the lead. Will Europe rise to the challenge? Full details ahead.
Berlin and Washington will decide on sending 2 American Patriot air defense systems to Kyiv within the next few days or weeks. This statement was made by German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius after talks with his American counterpart Pete Hegseth, and he called on a broad range of NATO member countries to participate in acquiring Patriot missile systems and other American weapons needed by Ukraine.
A few weeks ago, I spoke with Pete Hegseth about this topic over the phone, and during our conversation, I suggested that Germany could buy 2 Patriot systems from the Americans and deliver them directly to Ukraine, simply because, given our own situation with the supply and maintenance of Patriot systems, we cannot transfer another system, but we are ready to purchase 2 such systems due to the urgent need that none of us can ignore. Ukraine needs more systems.
On the 14th of July, the President of the United States announced preparations to send 17 Patriot systems to Ukraine and stated that a large number of these complexes would soon be on the battlefield. Further arms deliveries will be coordinated by the alliance, and other NATO countries will pay for them.
We make the best, and we're going to be sending.
We produce the best, and we will be sending the best to NATO, and in some cases, perhaps as Max suggested, if we go to Germany, where they will send the missiles that will be replaced, and NATO will take care of that.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, following Trump's statement, announced that Ukraine will now receive a huge amount of air defense weaponry, as well as missiles and ammunition. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz called the decision to supply weapons to Ukraine on a large scale an important initiative, and said that in recent days he had discussed the issue of Europeans purchasing American weapons with Trump several times.
We are doing this in our own interests. This will help Ukraine defend itself against the terror of Russian bombings. This is the only way to increase pressure on Moscow so that it finally agrees to peace negotiations. Finally, we are showing that we are moving in the same direction as our security partners. Friedrich Merz, Chancellor of Germany, on social network X.
Germany will play a decisive role in this process, said Friedrich Merz. Ukraine will receive the first long-range systems as early as July, the production of which was financed by Germany. This will significantly strengthen Ukraine's air defense and its capabilities in the coming weeks and months, according to the Bundeswehr.
They need weapon systems capable of penetrating deep into Russian territory and striking warehouses, command posts, airfields, and aircraft. The first long-range weapon systems financed by Germany are expected to be delivered as early as the end of July, followed by deliveries in quantities numbering in the hundreds. Christian Freuding, Bundeswehr general, in an interview with ZDF television.
The Netherlands is ready to support the promise made by US President Donald Trump and hopes that other countries will follow their example, the country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated.
We are studying this issue and are considering it with a positive attitude. As you may know, the Netherlands is already doing a lot, including in the field of air defense, from Patriot missile systems, missile batteries, to F-16 fighter jets, from manpads to Dutch-Ukrainian cooperation on drones worth up to $1 to $4 billion. To radar systems for countering attacking drones, and so on.
According to NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Germany will take an active part in providing large-scale military assistance to Ukraine, as will Finland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Canada. Everyone wants to participate, and this is only the first wave. There will be even more, stated the Secretary General of the Alliance, Natalia Gusova Dmitry Stangelov for Freedom Television Channel.
More still for the front, Latvia has officially delivered the first batch of armored personnel carriers to Ukraine, a powerful gesture of support from a frontline NATO ally. But that's not all, a second shipment is already on its way, packed with even more gear to boost Ukraine's defense. What's inside these convoys and how will they help our troops hold the line? Full breakdown coming up.
We're talking about 42 units worth around 70 million euros, says Latvian Prime Minister Evika Silieva. She is currently in Kyiv. She attended the ceremony honoring the heroes of Ukraine on Ukrainian Statehood Day, and she has just met with President Zelensky. They discussed defense support and its funding, drones, and Ukraine's path to the European Union.
We truly count on your country and know that Latvia is a great friend of Ukraine. We are grateful for your tremendous support. Thank you for your messages and decisions, especially regarding armored vehicles. This is a very positive signal. This is important especially as we defend our statehood.
I can assure you that Latvia stands with Ukraine because we support you in every way, not only emotionally and financially, but also politically. And in times of turbulence, when certain countries did not know what would happen next, we became part of the coalition of the willing and put pressure on other countries so that they would not only be involved in this long negotiation process, but also support Ukraine.
The EU has postponed its decision on the 18th package of sanctions against Russia. Yet foreign ministers agree the pressure must keep growing. What's behind the delay and what punishment is still on the table for the Kremlin?
The Council of the European Union continues its work on adopting the 18th package of sanctions against Russia. European politicians want to make it as strong as possible, so efforts must be made to reach unanimity on this issue. The foreign ministers of EU countries discussed the 18th package today in Brussels. They expect that the new sanctions against Russia will be adopted within a few days.
Russian bombings have reached record levels, and we are seeing an increasingly widespread use by Russia of banned chemical weapons in Ukraine. All of this shows that Russia does not want peace. In response, the EU has prepared one of the toughest sanction packages against Russia for adoption. Therefore, I very much regret that we did not reach this agreement today. I must say that we are very close to persuading Slovakia. Sanctions are necessary to deprive Russia of the means to wage this war.
So far, only Slovakia is requesting to postpone consideration of the 18th package of sanctions until its dispute with the European Commission regarding the abandonment of Russian gas is resolved. EU officials want to adopt a plan to phase out Russian fuel by 2028. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico wants an exception for his country until 2034. Otherwise, he will not support the sanctions. At the beginning of the meeting, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha addressed the participants via video link. He called for increased pressure on Russia, for accelerating Ukraine's integration into the European Union, and for investing in Ukraine's defense industry.
We see that Russia rejects peaceful efforts and intensifies its terror. Moscow is pursuing three goals: to buy time to continue the war, to delay the imposition of sanctions, and to push the US out of peace efforts. Andriy Sybiha, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, and a statement on the website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine.
The High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallas, did not answer the question of whether the possibility of using frozen Russian assets to purchase weapons in the United States of America for Ukraine is being discussed. However, she mentioned that the fate of these assets may be discussed at an informal meeting of EU foreign ministers in August.
Obviously, we need more and more funding to stop this war in order to truly help Ukraine defend itself. Right now, there are very different views on the frozen assets among the member states. That is why we agreed to discuss the frozen assets only in the format of an informal meeting of foreign ministers. This will take place in August. We have our taxpayers, and our taxpayers are asking why it is not Russia, which is causing all the damage, that pays for this damage and does not cover other needs. And that is a fair question.
Overall, most of the meeting participants believe that it will be possible to adopt the new sanctions package. Their confidence is bolstered by the decision of the US administration regarding new military supplies for Ukraine.
I am very glad that Europe and the US share the same position on this issue. I truly believe that the 50 days announced by Mr. Trump is quite a long time. The deadline until September 2nd, in my opinion, is rather long. But I appreciate that they truly see that Putin is stalling for time and that we need to increase the pressure on Russia. The bill by Senators Graham and Blumenthal has 87 co-sponsors. There has hardly ever been such a long list of co-sponsors, 87 out of 100 senators. That's why I truly believe it is very important for the US to move forward and for us as the EU to move forward as well.
Today, the ministers discussed the situation in Moldova. As a result of this discussion, the EU Council imposed a number of individual sanctions against persons and organizations for attempts to destabilize the situation in that country. The new sanctions are primarily aimed at associates of the fugitive oligarch Ilan Shor. It is expected that the 18th package of sanctions will continue to be discussed tomorrow at the meeting of EU ambassadors. EU officials are continuing to work on overcoming the final obstacles to its adoption and are seeking new sources of funding for the purchase of weapons for Ukraine. Vitaly Sizov, Ruslan Kuzgov from Brussels for Freedom Television Channel.
That's all for today on Ukraine Today. If you found this update valuable, like, comment and consider becoming a channel sponsor. Your support helps us keep going and telling the truth. Stay strong, stay informed and stay with Ukraine.